Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the order of City of Norco City Council regular meeting agenda for Wednesday, August 15th. Call the order. Clerk.
Councilmember Newton. Councilmember Bash. Yes. Councilmember Hanna. Here. Mayor Pro Tem Grunmeyer. Yes. Mayor Hoffman.
Yes.
All present.
Thank you. And please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please remain standing for Pastor Renee Parrish from the Beacon Hill Assembly of God. Thank you.
I want to just read from Isaiah 43:2. With thinking of all those that are our friends and some of our family members to the south of us that are still dealing with the fire, and then those to the north that have lost so much. But in Isaiah 43 it says, "When you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze, for I am the Lord your God, the Holy One of Israel, your Savior." And I just want to give acknowledgement and thanks to the Lord as we pray for the lives here in the South and the homes that were preserved and saved, but also to remember those to the north of us that have not been so fortunate as a city and a community. So, Father, we come humbly before you, thanking you, Lord, for your grace and mercy, Lord, over our community and those communities to the south. So many of our family and friends, God, Lord, our neighbors. And God, we thank you, Father, that your hand of preservation, Lord Jesus, swept and over those hills this last week, and Father, for the fire that still burns, Lord, that you'd be with those on the front lines and bring protection. Yet we think also of those who have lost so much to the north and to those who have lost loved ones and lives. And God, we ask, Lord, that you would be with them to comfort them and to strengthen them. Lord, I pray, Father, that in those places, God, where we can bring no solace and no comfort, God, that you can bring that peace that transcends all of our understanding. So, Lord Jesus, we place them within your hands. May you be with them, God, and uphold them, Father, in those communities. Lord, we thank you for, God, the love that has been expressed, God, throughout those communities and ours here to the south, Father. We've seen your love extended through, God, the hands of flesh and blood and friends and neighbors. And, God, I want to thank you, Lord. God, it was exhibited, Lord, through Norco Animal Hospital, Lord, that just refused to charge those who had boarded their animals there because of the fire. So, Lord, we thank you for those glimpses of your character, your grace, God, that's so reflected in our people, in our community, Lord. And God, just ask that you bless, God, our assembly here together and those that have been elected to leadership, Father, and give them wisdom and grace, Lord, in all of the decisions and all of our ways. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
And if I could have Scott come join me at the podium, and Councilman Newton, come on, you got a job to do. All right.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Can I have, sorry, I have to remember the name here, I'm having a brain fart, Christina from Wicked Pilates. Come over here. Hi, pleasure to meet you in person. Okay, so good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Scott DeRosa, and I'm here with my colleague Vicki Leonard, and we're members of the Economic Development Advisory Council here in Norco. And on behalf of our wonderful City Council, I am pleased to assist Mayor Hoffman in recognizing, well, as well as Councilmember Newton, in recognizing Wicked Pilates, sorry, please, with the City Council's August Business Appreciation Plaque. Wicked Pilates opened up for business in Norco in January 1st, 2012, as the first Pilates studio in the area. In 2015, they began a Zumba event called Dancing for a Cure. It's grown every year, and with all the proceeds going to a chosen breast cancer organization. In 2017, they held a fundraiser to help support Leaps and Bounds, who was our March 2017 recipient of the Business Appreciation Plaque. Wicked Pilates and Leaps and Bounds work together in offering Pilates reformer-based physical therapy for kids of Leaps and Bounds. They're continuously reaching out to other businesses to form mutually beneficial relationships. Also, for the last 3 years, they have been recognized as a studio of choice to provide mind-body training for athletes from Exact Sports, one of the biggest soccer camps in the world, located in Chicago. Exact Sports holds a yearly camp at Silver Lakes, and Wicked Pilates has had the great honor of helping their athletes incorporate yoga into their training. So congratulations to Christina and Wicked Pilates. The plaque that Mayor Hoffman has for her reads, "The City of Norco hereby honors Wicked Pilates Fitness Studio for its contribution to health and wellness in Norco and its passionate commitment to improving lives through partnerships with various local nonprofit organizations." Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You can say a few words. Pressure.
Pressure is on. Well, it's a big honor having Wicked Pilates and being a part in this wonderful community. The support is very, very big, and we love what we do. We love to spread health and fitness in our community. And a big shout out loud to my wonderful staff. That's for you guys. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I brought Councilman Newton up here. We were at the Cassandra's Leaps and Bounds annual dinner, and Christina introduced herself to her, and Greg he was amazed how wonderful her program is and how much it's benefited. I know it's benefited the kids over at Leaps and Bounds. And you have you were claimed, what, the top Pilates?
Best Pilates and yoga studio in the IE.
See, so we appreciate excellence here in Norco.
Picture time, man.
Picture time?
We go stand in front of the podium, we'll do pictures.
In front? In front?
And now, I'm going to turn over the podium for Chuck Wilson and the Historical Collection Consultant here in town. Chuck, it's all yours.
Thank you. Members of the council, city staff, and residents of Norco.
Pull the mic towards you, Chuck.
Probably would be a good idea, wouldn't it? How's that? All right. Good evening. I've got some prepared remarks, but I'm going to skip those for a minute or two and just do a couple of things here. Number one, Christina, take a package of your information from your business, put it together, give it to Roger, because that's the sort of thing that goes into the history collection. Businesses here in Norco are things that are recognized as part of the business collection, as that's part of the overall Norco collection. City council members, I want those two guys when you're done with them. I've had the pleasure of processing the material in the Norco history collection for the past several years. And let me pause here just for a moment and bring you up to date on things. I started as an archivist in fall of 1970 at the California State Archives. So I'm going to be using terms such as processing, records, retention schedules, record series, record groups, and cubic footage. Let me talk about each of those. Processing is nothing more than organization, and that's what we're doing with the Norco History Collection. Record series and record groups are organs that we have established within the collection. There are currently 17 record groups within the collection. An example is newspapers. This is a group that is only newspapers. There's a separate one for news clippings. And within this, there are series, which is the next level down, the largest of which is the Press Enterprise, but there's also the Pony Express and the Independent and a number of others that are full-fledged newspapers that are part of the collection. And that's part of what we do in processing. We call it organization. Whatever you want to do, that's what we work to deal with. Quantity now. If you came in this afternoon or this evening and you looked at the chair out behind me in the entryway, there's a white box out there. That's a cubic foot. And that's what we deal with in terms of quantity when we're talking about archival materials. So when we're talking about the particular collection here, the history collection, there are 359 cubic feet of primary process materials as part of that collection currently. There are 151 artifacts that are processed at the primary level. That basically is saying we have a box identification. We know this box is here. We know what's in the box generally. And we have a date span for that. That's our primary processing. That's a level that processing is being done currently with the collection. So once we get there, great. Why? Well, the collection is there for you. It's there for the public. It's there for you, for members of the Norco community to view and to participate in. And the second Sunday of every month, 10 to 2, the community center room is open where the archives and the displays are for your entertainment and for your information. So we invite you to come down and go ahead and go through that. But what it's all about, it's not about documents. It's about people. And people like Grace Moore. Grace was a gray lady. That is, she had a gray uniform as part of the Red Cross in World War II. This is her identification card. It tells us on the front that not only was Grace a gray lady, she drove a 13-year-old Chevy Coupe, had a Turk license plate. And if you turn it over, and this is on display behind me, you would find that this gray lady had gray hair and gray eyes. She was a true gray lady. But that's what the collection's all about. It's documents that reflect people. It's what people did in Norco. It's what happened to people in Norco. It's the public activities that took place in Norco and the things that are associated with Norco. So in this case, it's the Naval Hospital, and of course that's where the parking was. It's people who participated in and developed the Norco Valley Fair. I particularly like this emblem because it shows the school in the background, which is now the community center. And if you were looking at this community center, as it is here, just to the left of that is a small auditorium, and that's where the displays are for the Norco History Center, and that's where the archives are kept as well. So again, second Sundays, be sure and come by and take a look about that and see what's going on there. One of the things that reflects the people of Norco, perhaps most dramatically, is Rex Clark's ideas for the community. And Rex dealt with both ends of the economic spectrum. Here you have a tiller, cultivator, plow, if you will, that you had to push. There's no animals associated with this. This is part of the small farm environment, and you can see the ad for it there, which is not part of our collection, but we pulled that up off the internet to give you an idea of what the ad was like at the time. The implement itself is part of the collection. So you have this small farmer, the guy who was just trying to make it on his own, maybe cultivating his own garden, dealing with a few extra vegetables or whatever it might be that he could sell at a farmer's market, or perhaps the one that was dealing with the hatchery on his own small scale. This particular device, if you look to the right there, what appears to be at the top right, is a little round device. actually a kerosene lamp fit under that, a common device at the time that every household would have, but that's what provided the heat to the incubator, and that's what this is. And you can see the picture there of, got a few extra chicks that are on display there. Again, reflective of the fact that these were ordinary folks that were in Norco. These were folks that were making their way on, maybe not a shoestring, but they were not affluent by any means. And you can see here, again, the incubator, and of course, post-World War II, chickens and eggs are a big deal in Norco. It's not just a home industry or home cottage. And you can barely see the kerosene lamp there to the right of this picture. We have, indeed, someplace in between here, also the upper scale, the Lake Norconian Club. And this is part of the display at the community center. If you look in the back there, that's actually on display at the community center. If you check the large photo as you came in, that's by the table, it shows the room in which that was hanging at the Lake Norconian Club. So we have direct visual evidence of its being part of the Lake Norconian Club. Rumor has it that the furniture is as well. I have no idea why we have the television. But it does provide us an excellent opportunity to do a video on the Lake Norconian Club and to show that on a regular basis. And it provides an interesting artifact for the younger generation to see what television was like. What? No remote? No. 1970s vintage color television. Again, you don't always know why you find things in the collection. I have no idea of this one. Most of the rest of the stuff, we can pretty well tell just what it is and where it's come from and keep track of it. The surfboard, if you could look closely at that center portion, it would say Lake Norconian on it. And this is also something we could easily attribute to being part of the collection. The item you see at the bottom of the surfboard, it's a large chandelier. Some think it may have come from the club. We have, as you probably noticed, we'll go back here a couple of shots, chandeliers in the back by the painting. And this is a painting which is on fabric, by the way. Maybe they came out of the club, maybe they didn't. We have a fairly extensive group of maybe 3 or 4 albums of photos of the club at the time, and that's why we were able to document the painting. We haven't really documented any of the chandeliers. Could be they were there, we don't know. We don't have any pictures of the furniture up there as well. So some of this stuff comes to us and it's anecdotal evidence. Some of it we can actually, as with the painting, say, sure, that's the way it is. We know what's going on. Ordinary people doing their things in the events that make Norco what it is. Maybe it's the rodeo. You look at this and it says, okay, that's a nice drawing, interesting. But also historically it tells us some information that we might not have otherwise, and that is, this is the 2nd annual Horse Week Rodeo. When did it start? Well, we may not have something from the beginning, but we know from this that it started in 1974. And so you move on from there, and again, this is people doing things for Norco, people of Norco doing their stuff. Lots of things from the Valley Fair. You saw the board that's pictured here as part of the various buttons we have, and we have scads of these from the various years. I like particularly, however, the item in front. The TV series Pawn Stars begins with Rick saying, you never know what's going to come in the doors. Well, folks, you never know what you're going to find in a history collection either. Now, I have here the 2nd place 1976 decorating Norco Library in the 5th annual Norco Horse Week. Take a quick look at this and I ask you, what do you think was first place? This comes complete, however, with a little plaque that tells you who made it. So again, you have, in this case, a direct people association with the activities here in the Norco area. Kevin could tell me more about this. In fact, I've just forgotten, Kevin, so I need this.
Bill Vaughn's Lions Club Fest.
Right. So again, it's people-oriented. These are people who are here. These were people who collected things. These were people who were part of the Norco community that are reflected in the history collection. So I'll get that from you again, Kevin. I know you told me about that once before. This is the way it's stored. Each of those gray boxes or the white boxes are archival quality materials, or boxes, and the material is stored in them. The larger boxes are the boxes in which the newspapers are stored. The oversized documents are stored in slots, as you can see here. They have identification on most of them. There are some that we still have to do. The material in the boxes is all included in our Excel spreadsheet that lists where it is, the box number, the range, the shelf, the section within those 4 ranges that we have. And as you can see, some indication in a description of what's in those. And then again, if you go over to like about that third set over, the date range. Secondary processing, which has to be done next on this, would bring it into much greater focus. And instead of just saying, yeah, well, we have some of these checks or have these, it would say, well, we would have checks from this period of time, Rotary Club bank statements for this period of time, rather than just having a general range of dates that are on there. So you can find it. It's been identified. It's been primarily processed. It's ready to use. It's available, and they're using this in the displays that are there for you to take a look at and for you to go ahead and, I hope, enjoy. Now, that having been said, 2 things outside on the tables. One is a sign-up sheet for volunteers, and the other is a sign-up sheet for those of you who may have things that you think you'd like to take a look at and add to the collection. We encourage you to sign up on either or both of those. As we were putting this together, Roger said to me, you've got this 1973, I guess, Rose Parade plaque. People ask me, why are we saving that? You know, what's historic about 1973? And I said, well, a number of years ago, my wife and I were vacationing in France, and we happened to be in a little rural community in a little restaurant, and the table next to us, which was quite close, had an English couple there. And there was a mix-up in the orders, and so there was some time and we got to talking. My wife has spent a career in historic preservation, and of course, you always ask, what do you do? What do you do? And as an archivist, they kind of have an idea, but when she said historic preservation, the gentleman at the next table paused, and he said, no offense, but you're from the United States, right? What could you possibly have that was worth saving? Well, guys, if we don't save these today, they're not going to be there for saving tomorrow and for history to take a look at. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. Appreciate that. All right, going on to City Council business item 1, City Council communications reports on regional boards and commissions. Berwin, I'll start with you.
Have nothing to report. Have Vector tomorrow, and then everybody's dark the rest of the month.
Okay. Robin?
Nothing to report.
Oh. Greg?
I'll fall on Kevin. Nothing to report. I have the Chino DeSalter board meeting tomorrow afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Kevin?
I had my WRCOG meeting, which was relatively uneventful. One of the questions I did ask was about the redevelopment pension and health recovery program that people were doing, and found out most cities didn't even know they could do it. So it was very interesting, but I'm talking to Rick Bishop maybe about finding ways to maybe join together and getting some of that money back. And then even though this wasn't a council thing, as you know, I went to Washington, D.C., and the MIA POW accounting office, which was responsible for bringing back Cold War, Korean War bodies, it was incredible. And because of the 55 boxes, which may have as many as 200 people in them, there was over 1,000 people there. The last bodies were brought back in 2007, and nothing happened for 8 years. And now all of a sudden, they've because I guess there's just a lot of pressure to bring some of these home. We did discover where my mom's cousin is. He's just north of the south border, and he's in the middle of a minefield. And we're hoping that the negotiations will proceed, that they're going to go into the DMZ zone and maybe find him. It's also possible that he may be one of 600 bodies that they're pulling up out of the Punch Bowl National Cemetery in Hawaii. They buried them. They were given to us in 1956, but they were treated with formaldehyde, which meant the DNA was no longer viable. But they have found the DNA in the clavicles, and so with a new test, and so they're now exhuming those bodies. And turns out the guy that runs the show used to serve with my cousin and was one of his undergenerals, and so I got to actually be there when families were told that they found their relatives. Still chokes me up. But it was an amazing weekend. And then and the other thing I wasn't aware of is that South Korea just says we saved their country. So they gave us a huge dinner and honored all of the relatives, and it was really, really, really an amazing 3 days. And then we stayed around for a while, listened to about the first 1,500 names of 7,700 names of those that didn't come home from Korea. And they're doing the same thing for World War II, and they're doing the same thing for Vietnam. Really, really an amazing, amazing 3 days. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. I'm going to be brief on mine. We met with the California Rehabilitation Center, and they briefed us a little bit. For those you don't know, they had 5 crews out of CRC that helped battle the fires up in Northern California and in the Southern California area. And there are 2 of them are still out there. So we are a vital link for CAL FIRE in this, as far as that goes with our CRC crews. Also, just so you know, coming up, and CRC is going to be changing to their structure. You're going to see probably they're going to get in September, maybe early October. They're going to be almost a all general population prison. So they're going to try to get rid of those people that they have to do special care with. And that's one of the things they're looking at. And then just so you know how important they are, this summer, they have donated over $14,393 to various schools and charities in our area through their fundraising program. So kudos to them. And I was hoping Battalion Chief Elaine would be here to give us an update on all the fires and how much CAL FIRE has done with us, but he's not. So you can see he's still busy. I know he was out on the Holy Fire, and him and his crews were out taking care of people in South Corona area and the Horse Thief Canyon area and that. So up in Trilogy. So hopefully in the next council meeting he'll give us an update. But I'm going to turn it over right now and defer my time to Lieutenant Briddick. He can comment about what his crews did during the fire season and also his Labor Day activities.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of City Council. Good evening. Starting with the fire, our department was involved, and ideally what happens is there's a unified command that goes out, and we have a special emergency response team, and all of the assets and resources the Sheriff's Department provides is funneled through that particular division, and they draw upon each of our stations, bureaus, and facilities for manpower because those fires are long in duration and require a great deal of staffing and coordination related to the evacuation evacuations and protection of residences that are vacated by the residents. And so Norco was also impacted. We had Deputy Robertson and Deputy Foucher and Sergeant Torres out there, and they spent 16 hours Sunday night basically keeping the community safe and assisting with evacuations. So they were busy, and I appreciate what they did. Moving on to our Office of Traffic Safety grant. Norco benefits from the monies and funding received for that. It enhances our traffic enforcement program, specifically toward impaired driving with our DUI checkpoints and our DUI saturation patrols, as well as some of the safety programs that we run. So we have the holiday weekend coming up, Labor Day, and I'm going to speak a little bit about that. We did put up a press release, and anytime we do these large-scale operations, we are required by OTS, the Office of Traffic Safety, to publish what our enforcement is. So I'm just going to be brief and read from the press release so there's a complete understanding of what this entails. And it's basically entitled, "This Labor Day and Every Day, Drive Sober or Get Pulled Over." I need my glasses, excuse me. From August 17th through September 3rd, the Norco Sheriff's Office is participating in a high-visibility national enforcement campaign referred to as Drive Sober or Get Pulled Over. During this period, police and sheriff's departments statewide, along with the California Highway Patrol, will increase the number of officers on the road to stop suspected drunk or drug-impaired drivers and motorcyclists. If you are caught driving or riding impaired, you will be pulled over and arrested. The Norco Sheriffs will have a special emphasis during this 18-day mobilization to enforce all traffic violations by deploying DUI saturation patrols during the time period. The enforcement campaign runs through Labor Day holiday weekend, which is one of the deadliest times of year in terms of alcohol-involved traffic deaths. And just a little bit more on that, the news lately, you can see how DUI drivers have impacted families with the head-on collisions on the freeway. It seems like almost every day we're seeing those, where a suspected drunken driver is driving on the wrong side of the freeway, crashes into an unrelated vehicle, and unfortunately people die as a result. So I just want to remind people, always designate a sober driver, use public transportation or a ride-sharing service to get home, have a friend or family member who is about to drive buzzed or impaired, take their keys away, and make arrangements for them to get home safely, and report all drunk drivers by calling 911. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant. All right. Given that, we'll move right down on here to the City Council consent items. Are there any items that want to be pulled?
I want to pull C, D, and E.
C, D.
I want to pull G.
Hang on. Kevin, you pulled C, D, and E?
C, D, and E.
And Berwin, you pulled G?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And Mayor, I have an item on C also.
Yes, so do I.
I do too.
Okay.
Motion to approve the rest.
Second.
Have a first and a second?
Please vote on this item. That motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. All right, Kevin, you pulled C?
I'm going to defer to Councilman Hanna on C. I believe we spoke. He's going to be looking at the same item.
Berwin?
Yeah, I lost my spot here. On number 4, the Hidden Valley golf course, that building up there, I'd like to bring that to a future agenda for us to discuss it.
I assume by a future agenda, you mean appealing it to the next council meeting?
Right.
Okay. You got a second?
Second.
First and a second?
Okay, there'll be a verbal roll call vote. Councilmember Hanna? Councilmember Newton? Yes. Councilmember Bash?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Grunmeyer? Mayor Hoffman?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. And Craig, you had also on C?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This is a question for Steve and possibly John. Item 4, I'm sorry, business item 5, letter 4, site plan 2017-13. And I just have a question and a concern. Steve, on condition number 41, this approval is for office use only, no outdoor or contractor storage is allowed. Does this condition have enough weight behind it in case this becomes a fabrication yard, delivery type activities?
Yes.
Does?
Yeah, I mean, that was the intention. It was made clear to the applicant that
Okay.
it's an office use purely, and obviously because of the issues which were raised at the Planning Commission meeting, we're going to be making sure that it is, and if it's not, he'll hear from us.
Okay, so we're confident there's enough teeth in that condition to
Yes.
take care of our concerns? Okay. Thank you. That's the only one I had, Mayor.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve C then, as we did?
Motion to approve.
First and second?
Councilmember Newton?
Yes.
Councilmember Bash?
Yes.
Councilmember Hannah? Mayor Pro Tem Grunmeyer? Mayor Hoffman?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, Kevin, you pulled D?
I did. I'm really excited about D and E, and because the fight has been so long and hard to get to this point, I would like you, Chad, just to, I think Greg and I, we've been slaving over this for a long time. And before you start, Andy, I really want to thank you for all of the meetings that you set up at the county and with John Tavaloni and Mr. Fields and all those people. This has been a real team effort. So please tell us the good news, sort of.
Thank you, Councilor Bash. This item basically will put an agreement together between the County Flood Control and the City of Norco to complete a joint project, one being the primary appurtenances that are going to be put in for flood control on Crestview Avenue and Mount Shasta to control a lot of the runoff that we've had that's been impacted that community for quite a long time. This does not include the basin that they're intending and still intend to try to install, which will collect most of the debris and mud that comes off the hillside. But at this point, what they're going to put into the street, as far as the catch basins, the storm drain, will at least alleviate the street side issues, will certainly take care of the problem that's immediately impacting the Snow family on their property, because there's an outfall from the storm drain that goes through their property. So they'll eliminate that entirely going through their property. In addition to that, while as part of that process, the flood control of the area that they're improving will be doing half street improvements. So they're doing a whole new road on the half street that they're doing, which is the west side. They won't be doing any street improvements on Mount Shasta because it's a fairly new road. It doesn't require that. So they'll just be doing a trench repair. But we're also going to be doing road improvements on the remainder of that street between 7th and 6th on the area that flood control is not repairing. So, but they're doing it under their contract, so we're getting a good, hopefully bids come in, that's a good economy of scale, so we get that all done at once. So that'll be a nice new improved road on Crestview from 6th to 7th. And just to follow that, as a side note, we do have a project in addition to that to do the road improvements from 7th to North this year. So again, the whole idea is to get all of Crestview completed and repaired because it's in dire need of it. So this is a good positive project. We got the community participating in this also, and that one of the residents has provided some of their personal property to put a catch basin to capture the water and debris that's impacting them directly. So that's item E, which they're giving us a dedication of property so we can do that. So this is a project that's been long coming, and again, they have told me that they will officially be out to bid on September 11th is their date that they're set to put it out to bid. So they'll approve it with their board towards the end of this month, and then everything will go out to bid. And then we will come back with, well, we won't have to come back because you're giving this authorization, and it's already approved, the CIP project, but we'll come back with information about what the final funding obligation is for the city to do the street improvements. So you have that information.
Thank you. And he kind of combined D&E, so if there's no questions, I'm a motion to approve. Thank you very much, Chad. Again, thank you, Andy.
So your motion is to approve both D&E?
Both D&E.
Is there any other objections or? Okay, I have a second. We got a first and a second on approving both D&E, 2D and 2E.
Please vote on the item or the motion. That motion passes unanimously.
Cheryl, you don't need a separate one for the other. You're good for both two. Okay. And Berwin, you pulled G?
Yes, sir. I just got a suggestion on that, Chad. When you do a slurry seal, it tends to make the surface really slick, especially if it gets a little wet from the heat or moisture, and it's dangerous for horses coming off of dirt stepping onto that because they will fall whether they got shoes or barefooted. So we'll had some suggestions, and it works because they've done it before, is when they do those crossings, add a little bit of sand right there to that slurry mix to so the horses will have traction when they hit there. Because I remember years ago there at corner 6th and Center, where that tire store is, there was horses falling there all the time until they put sand in there and mixed it up. It's dangerous for not only the rider, but the horse could get really crippled on that. And so I just make it a suggestion, and that's all I had on that item, Mr. Mayor. Do we need to have a motion to go ahead and approve it?
Can I ask
Go ahead.
a question?
Go ahead.
Chad, in lieu of a sand, you know how we can slurry with like a chip? Is there not enough there to do like a chip seal that maybe would?
I'd have to talk with the contractor because we specified a type 2 slurry.
Okay.
And that's what they bid on. I think we need to sit down and look at it, see what can be done and what the impacts would be if we put a sand over it before it's had a chance to cure. And if it really is, maybe it's not an issue and they're used to that. I want to talk with them about it.
Okay.
'Cause, I mean, it's a valid suggestion. It's just got to figure out how we apply that with the project.
Thank you.
No other discussion? Do I have a motion to approve? Move to approve. A second? Kevin?
Second.
Second.
Please vote on the item. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, now is the time for public comments. This is the time when persons in the audience wishing to address the city council regarding matters not on the agenda may speak. Please complete a speaker card, which are in the back in the lobby, and present it to the city clerk so you may be recognized. Do we have any cards?
Yes, Tara Tolan.
Good evening, Tara.
Good evening.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The council members. I'm here to voice my concerns and frustrations over a property issue that I'm experiencing in the city with my home and a neighbor. I made my first complaint about this neighbor 2,667 days ago. The city code enforcement went out, sent the owner at that time a letter, and then the item died. There was no follow-up. This is pertaining to an illegally constructed retaining wall on this gentleman's property that is on an easement. And over the course of several years of rains and ground deterioration, this wall has started to fall, or has in fact fallen. and into my property up to approximately 2 feet, leaning on my chain link fence, damaging my chain link fence into my horse corral area, and so forth. I tried for years to get the original owner to do anything about it. He shined me on. The house was purchased by another guy. I warned him, this wall is falling. He shined me on. I filed another complaint 477 days ago because this wall had deteriorated so bad. It was made out of railroad ties and backfill of dirt. 67 cubic yards of dirt had to have been placed in this backyard to raise this on a Edison easement for this man to build his backyard. Now all that dirt was sliding into my yard. He was instructed approximately 50 days ago or 60 days ago to take that wall down. He took that wall down. He has done nothing since. And all he did was dig a ditch to remove some of the dirt. Now that dirt is all falling back into my property, causing the chain link fence to even be damaged more, so that now it cannot just be repaired by being leaned back up. It has to be fully replaced. Sure, I can sue him, and I, in fact, filed a lawsuit against him for the replacement of my chain link. It still will not do me any good. I can't force him to repair or remove 67 cubic yards of dirt, 134,000 pounds of dirt that was illegally placed in there. I did a Public Records Act. There has never been a permit ever issued for any wall construction on this gentleman's property. And here we are again, and it seems I can't get anything done. I've been told time and time again, it takes time, it takes time. Well, what do I have to wait for? Another 100 days and some more rain, and now I'm going to have all this dirt backwashing and mudding into my yard. Thank you for your time.
Tara, I would take it this has been a code incurrence. I don't know if you've spoken to our planning director, Steve King, who's also in charge of code enforcement.
I have not directly spoken to him, no, just his code enforcement officer.
Steve, could you provide her your card and information so you can talk to her directly?
Bonnie Slager.
Good evening, Bonnie.
Hi. The NHA trail elves have been out again working on Sierra. I believe some rails went down from an accident, and so the trail crew replaced some rails on Sierra. I wanted to invite everybody tomorrow night to our NHA meeting. We're going to have some of the kids that are auctioning off their animals at the fair talk about them. It's always fun to see the kids and hear them, so I hope everybody can join us. And then NHA, along with Rural, is sponsoring the Candidates Night on September 20th at Nellie Weaver Hall at 6:30, and I hope you'll all be there. In addition to the candidates for City Council, we are also going to have the 2 candidates that are running for supervisor as well. So I hope everybody will join us that night. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie, and thank you for all the trail work you guys have done over this past summer.
Jeff Cahan.
Good evening, Jeff.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. I'm here to give you a couple of updates. I'm sad to say we had to cancel our last concert due to the air quality concerns from the fire. We were really looking forward to having Yard Sale be our anchor concert, but clearly the fires and the smoke overcame the ability for safe outdoor use of the park. The cities surrounding us, Corona and Eastvale, also had canceled their concerts in the park as well, so we were well within the neighboring cities' decisions as well. So sadly, with football season starting, Friday nights are a premium, and yard sales schedule is very busy as well, so we may not be able to reschedule and simply have to cancel rather than postpone. So sadly, we had 2 concerts not go over this summer with the heat and the smoke, so we're going to look forward to next year being a better year for our concerts, but that was the update on unfortunately having to cancel that. Switching hats now, a little update for everybody with regards to the Veterans Memorial events. As Kevin mentioned, the MIA POW is very front and center in the news right now with the return of those 55 boxes, and we just recently, of course, unveiled our POW MIA monument up at the memorial. So we will be recognizing and celebrating or honoring for the first time our first annual POW MIA Day recognition, which is always the third Friday of September. So please put on your calendars, 8:30 a.m. on Friday, September 21st. We will have a ceremony for our POW MIA Day. And of course, we're already planning and looking forward to our Veterans Day, November 11th ceremony, which, if you didn't know, is the 100th anniversary of the end of World War I. So we're planning some special things to commemorate not just Veterans Day, but it's the 100th anniversary as well. So we look forward to your participation. We know you have a lot of things to do, but we appreciate your tremendous support when it comes to the Veterans Memorial. So I invite you, the staff, the residents, everybody to come out and help us to honor and recognize our veterans and our POW MIAs on those days. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. We did plug in for those you attended. We had the U.S. Navy Band, Southwest Band, performed at the high school on the Thursday night before yard sale cancellation, and it was quite well received by those that attended. We appreciate that.
Jim Pollard.
Jim?
Good evening, Council
Good evening,
members.
Jim.
I have some paper. Good evening, council members, mayor, and Mayor Pro Temp. Just an update on the Circle City project. It is moving forward, and I appreciate all the help the city and the council members have done for the residents over there and that are directly impacted and indirectly impacted also, and the city itself. You'll have the papers, you'll be able to go through and read exactly what's going on in the dates, but it's progressing. It's going to be going in, by the end of this year, we should hear something back from the law attorney, and then the commissions will be sometime next year, possibly in 2019. It might be in San Francisco, but that hasn't been determined yet. One other thing on the lighter side, my wife and I were able to attend a 50th wedding anniversary for some friends of ours that live in Temple City. In that city, they acknowledged residents that have been married for 50 years, and I don't know if that would be something that we would want to consider. Certainly with the lifestyle that we have here, that would be conducive to something important. The 50 years would have to be with the same person.
Thank you, Jim, for that clarification.
Harvey Sullivan.
Good evening, Harvey.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, staff. Thank you for the opportunity to come down here and speak, and thank you for doing the job you do. I know it's a thankless job, but just do the best you can and move on. I got a couple of things I want to bring up. The rodeo is coming up the 17th through the 19th, and the fair is coming up, I think, the 30th of September through the 3rd, through Labor Day. And invite you all out for that and help support our community in those two deals. And I want to thank Lieutenant Bredick and his group for stepping up their DUI program during this time. And reading some of the stats there that you put out there, I believe it said that one person was killed every 50 minutes from a DUI, a drunk driver or something, or alcohol impaired or drug impaired driver. So that's way, way too much. And also I wanted to, and most of you probably know, if you don't know, Saturday at the American Legion there's going to be a presentation by, I believe it's called Canyon Creek. Is that the project is thinking about going in at Wiley Labs?
That's a Lansing property.
They're going to put on a presentation at the American Legion from 12 to 2 p.m. Saturday. So if any of you have any more information on it, other than that, you might bring it out. And also, last but not least, it's election time, and I, for one, I'm glad I'm not running. I did file my intent to run, and I thought about it, and I decided I never wanted to put myself in that position again where 3 or 4 other people could control what I do, you know. So I decided to stay out on this side of the room. I can say what I want to say, and they won't say, well, he's just saying it because he's running to try to get elected. So I will be saying some things in the next up-and-coming agendas about some of the things that's been going on. Most of you know I was working with Mr. Mugar all year last year. I furnished every one of you with hundreds of pages of documents showing that he needed help, and they had him tied up in court. None of you would step up to help him. A lawyer told you couldn't discuss it. That doesn't mean you couldn't have went out and looked at it and helped him, because it might interfere with a lawsuit, but you could help him. You're elected to help the people and serve the people, not to be an obstructionist for them. And I think over the past years, there's been some name calling from some people on the council, and also there's been several items that's been pulled from the Planning Commission that myself, I deemed that you went way overboard. You got your Planning Commission down there that you chose to do their job down there, and you need to stay out of their business. If you want to be on the Planning Commission, then resign from the City Council and go back down there. But every time there's an odd vote or something, somebody's got to pull it and see what's going on. You could just call that person up and ask them. You know, you don't have to do all of that. And you've created a lot of havoc for some people here recently, and I think you should have been working for them and with them, trying to get them corrected, you know, because that's what the law said. The first step is you go to the Planning Commission to start the process to get permitted. And instead of you guys helping them, you just like threw them on the bus. So we're going to be talking about some of that stuff.
Let's finish it up, Harvey, 3 minutes.
Yeah, okay. I'll be available at the, in case anybody wants to talk to me private. I'm not going to call anybody any names this year or getting in a pitching match with anybody, because everybody's leg gets wet in that. So, but I will be available to talk to it, to rodeo it, to fair if you want to talk to me, because it involves each and every one of you.
Thank you.
Chris Martis.
Good evening, Chris.
How are you? Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. I am Chris Martis. I am a representative for Lansing Companies, the owners of the Wiley Lab. I want to thank you, sir, for sharing that information, and I will elaborate a little bit more. Yes, we are doing a public information meeting on Saturday at the American Legion from 12 to 2 p.m. Mr. Lansing will be presenting a little summary information about what the project is, and we would like to invite the public to come who have not already heard our presentation, or maybe have ideas for us or some feedback. It is definitely something that we've been working on for a very long time, and the city and all those residents have been very gracious enough to allow me to be able to represent the company this past year. Again, we are just going to be going out and discussing our concepts and ideas in which what we see would be the best project for this particular site. And we welcome all feedback. We welcome anybody to come, and they can always reach me anytime. My website or my email address is Canyon Creek Resort Norco@gmail.com, or they can call me directly. My name is Chris, C-H-R-I-S, last name Mardis, M-A-R-D-I-S. My phone number is 909-520-5499. Again, we're opening up our public commenting, and we're inviting people out. We just want to let people know what we're doing, because I know that there's a lot of questions out there and concerns, and we want to make sure that we can address those. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, that concludes public comments.
Okay. Closes public comments, bringing it back up here to the dais. Going into legislative matters, item number 5A. The second reading, that's you, John.
Yep. No.
Worded?
Nope. Don't read it. Don't read it by title. Just need a motion.
Okay. Got a motion approved. Do I have a second? First and a second.
Please vote on this item. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, moving down to item 5B. This is second reading also. I just need a motion to approve. Got a motion, got a first and a second?
Please vote on this item. Motion passes unanimously.
Yeah, that's why I don't see your name on this. Oh, you are. All right, going down to 6A, approval of membership in the Western Community Energy Joint Powers. Andy, that's yours.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I will make a couple of housekeeping remarks on the city side. Then I will be turning it over to Tyler Masters from WRCOG. Also, a representative of Southern California Edison is here in the audience. They may be able to ask or answer questions for you. With respect to this item, this is a resolution for the City Council to consider whether the city wants to express its intention to join the Western Community Energy JPA for the purposes of implementing community choice aggregation program in the city of Norco. If the City Council decides to make its intention known tonight to join the JPA, the recommendation is for the City Council to appoint a regular director as well as an alternate director to act on behalf of the City of Norco on the board of the JPA. I do like to point out that those that are recommended to be appointed to this board will be Mayor Hoffman and Councilmember Bash. Again, this is just for the purposes of the city expressing its intention to join the JPA later on this year. There are plenty of information that are not yet known at this particular time. WRCOG is still conducting an ongoing study, feasibility study with respect to some of the issues related to this JPA. The results of those feasibility studies will be known during the latter part of this year. And once that information is known, then the City Council will adopt a formal resolution to join the JPA, should the City Council decide to do so. And at that particular time, also, the City Council will approve an ordinance which would formally make the City Council a member of this JPA. Again, this is just for tonight, a temporary action expressing intent to join that JPA later on this year. And with that, I will turn it over to Tyler Masters to make the presentation.
Good evening, Mr. Masters.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Norco Council members. Thank you, Andy, for that introduction. This is, I think, the third presentation. Have been some other WRCOG colleagues of mine that have provided presentations to the City Council, as well as to, I believe, a town hall meeting or two. So this is a 25-slide presentation, but I'm going to get through it pretty quickly. A lot of the information is something you've seen, but you can please stop me and ask questions along the way, or wait until the very end. My name is Tyler Masters. I'm a program manager at the Western Riverside Council of Governments, and I'm here to just provide you a quick update on the Community Choice Aggregation Program, what's called the Western Community Energy, your Neighborhood Power Authority. What a CCA is, it's enacted by AB 117 in the 90s, and it basically allows local governments or groups of local governments to aggregate their electrical load and provide electricity to its residents, businesses, and the community members of your cities. it is a statute that actually gives local control and choice back to cities and counties. How it works right now, Edison provides, they purchase the power, provide the power to you through their transmission and distribution lines to you, the customer. The only thing that changes is it would be Western Community Energy would be purchasing the power, still working in partnership with Southern California Edison and their transmission and distribution lines to get that power to our customers in this case. CCAs are not something, they're not a new concept. AB 117 enacted this a number of years ago. There are a number of CCAs across the state, 17, and that number is increasing. There is one in our subregion. San Jacinto has been partnering with the city of Lancaster. There are 9 that are looking at launching in 2018, 2019, 2020 timeframes. And the general idea of a local government becoming a utility is not a new thing. There are 59 agencies across the state that either provide their own water or power. Riverside, Corona, Moreno Valley come to mind within our subregion. CCA activity in Western Riverside County. In our subregion, we have a couple of different colors here. We have 5 WCE members that have taken action to join the board. We have a couple of CCA, San Jacinto and Corona, you can see in green. San Jacinto is working with Lancaster. Corona is looking at doing this on their own, given they have their own municipal utility. We have some yellow colors there. Riverside, Moreno Valley, Banning have their own municipal utilities. So what have we done really to date? We've been assessing the feasibility, as Andy was mentioning. We initiated and completed a feasibility study. Basically, the bottom line of that feasibility study, given a number of conservative elements, is there's up to a 4.4% savings that can be realized by residents and community members within participating jurisdictions. After the feasibility study, what we went ahead and did is we named the program Western Community Energy. We developed a number of frequently asked question sheets that we've provided to cities, and we've been providing to the public, as well as we developed a website. So if I see you on your phone, I won't take offense. WesternCommunityEnergy.com. It's a pretty good website we've put together. There have been a number of questions that have been asked and answered at city councils, and I just wanted to kind of go through the biggest questions. Why join? Why are so many cities across the state joining? There are 5 answers. The first, rate savings. Our feasibility study, again, 4.4% savings to participants. What this means on the bottom line is that for the city of Norco, let's go ahead and have 4.4% and just say it's 2% savings, right? That translates to about $500,000 annual savings to the city and its community members. This is I won't go through this, but you can see the Norco on there. There's about $26 million that the city, its community, paid Edison for electricity. The $500,000 would be coming back to the community, and about 17,000, I believe I'm looking at that right, 17,000 in just savings for the city's municipal operations. At 2% again. The second reason, track record of success. This isn't something that's new. There are a number of successful CCAs. All of the CCAs actually have met their priorities and their goals, whatever it is. And there hasn't been a city in any of these CCAs that has actually dropped out of the CCA to date. The third, providing the choice to the community. Currently, residents and businesses really only have the one choice. Southern California Edison provides provides the electricity through their grid to their customers. This would simply provide your residents, your businesses, a choice. They could still utilize Edison for procurement, or they could utilize a second option. The fourth reason is local control and local input on rate savings. One of the things that we hear a lot about is that transparency and that bureaucracy. This would bring some of that transparency a little bit more local. There would be a localized board to help Western Community set its policies to set rates versus residents right now having to go up to San Francisco to the CPUC's headquarters to provide public comments and the like. So it kind of brings it home a little bit. The fifth item, economic drivers. Economic development, every time WRCOG hosts visioning sessions with our elected officials and our city staff, economic development always floats its way to the top, whether it's healthy communities or energy or planning. The driver behind a lot of that is economic development. This can provide an avenue to allow cities to focus on the types of businesses that it bring into the subregion. So there is a timeline, and the question that we often receive is what's driving the timeline, and quite frankly, it is the California Public Utilities Commission, the CPUC, is driving the timeline. They're basically stating that to launch in 2020, 2 years from now, to launch in 2020, there needs to be an implementation plan in place by the beginning of 2019, the beginning of next year. So we kind of backed into a date to get things started, and we're looking at actually today, August 15th, for a cutoff to join WCE. And basically what that allows us to do is if cities participate in WCE, we'll be able to kind of aggregate the load, figure out who's in and who's out, and then we can develop a series essentially of additional rate savings reports. And we would present these rate saving reports to the WCE board, at which time you will be able to identify if it still makes sense to move forward or not. If it's feasible and you decide to move forward, we'll continue the process, develop the implementation plan, get it sent to the CPUC and approved, and then we'll work towards energy contracts. If, however, that report is not feasible and it doesn't make sense, it's our power is going to be more expensive, or it's going to be dirty, or whatever the reason, any of the cities can decide to opt out at no cost, no liability to the city. There aren't any liabilities to any of the members until energy contracts are signed, and that won't be until mid-2019, end of 2019. So some of the benefits of joining first are really being at that table, helping to develop some of the policies, some of the programs, identifying the energy rates and the portfolios that Western Community Energy will provide to its customers, and showing, quite simply just showing the leadership in the community. We've been receiving a question recently, doesn't this add another layer of government? And yes, it kind of does. It's a shift in that bureaucracy, in that additional layer of government, where that layer used to be in San Francisco. If any of residents wanted to go and provide public comments on these rates, you'd have to go up to San Francisco. This kind of brings that home again a little bit, creating that local control. But we think that trade-off makes sense. There are a couple of questions on exit fees or the power charge indifference adjustment, the PCIA, and is it a deal breaker? It has been for a long time unknown, a big unknown in the feasibility study, but the answer is no. This is, just for some background, the exit fee is a charge. It is a fee charged to CCA customers to cover SCE's stranded costs for its current power contracts, so that the unbundled customers, those kind of customers that remain with Edison, aren't kind of left holding the bag. And we agree, we don't want anyone harmed in the development of a program like this. We want everything to be fair. So one of the things that we went ahead and did in our feasibility study is we assumed a much higher exit fee than was currently listed. We were assuming that the PCI was going to be 30% higher than what it currently is today. And recently there has been a CPUC decision that actually favored moving forward, meaning that the PCIA was actually lower than we anticipated in our feasibility study. This came out just the beginning of August, and basically what it did is it capped the exit fee at 2.2 cents per kilowatt hour, where we were assuming it was around about 4 cents per kilowatt hour. Now this was the proposed decision the beginning of this month, of August, yes, August 1. As of yesterday, there was a Sorry, I thought there was another slide there. As of yesterday, there was an alternative decision that was proposed by one of the commissioners at the CPUC, and what this alternative decision is, it's a little bit more perhaps of a compromise. WRCOG is looking a little bit deeper into it, but what we still believe that it is definitely within the assumed variables that we had in our original feasibility study. So it still shows favorable in participation as far as the PCIA goes. So how do cities join? Andy did a great job, so I won't go through this, but it's taking action at your city council to assign membership to the WCE board for a 2020 launch. And that concludes my presentation. I hope I was brief. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Does council have any questions of Mr. Masters? Robin, go ahead.
So on slide number 5, you showed that you currently have 5 cities that have agreed to join, and then there's another 5 of us that have hash marks, and from your presentation, the understanding is they would have to say yes or no by tonight. Is that correct?
That is correct.
But what is the likelihood of those other cities saying yes tonight?
And thank you for bringing that up. So we will be in the city of Jurupa Valley tomorrow. Calamasa has decided to wait. Norco is there. We're here. We have some colleagues at Menifee right now. I haven't received a text from them at this point. And Myriad has decided to wait as well. So we have two more to go of those hash marks.
And how does that affect the feasibility study? Or does it impact? Did you guys bank on the 5 that you already had said yes, and that's what's in the feasibility study? Or are you banking on all 10 of us
in that
study?
It doesn't affect, it's a great question. It doesn't affect the feasibility study, but when we are going to identify who all is in, we will rerun numbers. That feasibility study is now a year old. We're gonna rerun numbers with current models, current energy rates, and we'll get that out to our board to identify then again if it makes sense, if it's feasible to move forward or not.
Thank you.
Berwin? Greg?
Good evening. I'm trying to find which page that was. One of my concerns is that you addressed in your slides is creating another layer of government, and that's a big concern to me. I believe part of what you had up there was that you would have like 4 employees, but then you would go out to technical consultants for the bulk of that. But in your studies, how are you going to, whether it's 4 employees or whatever you end up with, how are you going to address the future impacts of the unfunded liabilities and the pensions of these employees? Who ultimately is going to be paying for that?
And that's a great question, and that was, I believe, a very similar question to the one that Councilmember Bash had at WRCOG just last week, I believe. So that is something as part of this. WCE would fall under WRCOG, at least to get its legs under it. So we would be tracking a lot of those pieces, and I'd be happy to get you more information on that. But a lot of those decisions will be made, at when the board is up and running, and we're making those policy level decisions.
So there's no information at that time, at this time, of what those costs possibly could be. Is that what?
Not at this time. That's correct.
Okay. And with that, I mean, on the surface, it looks great that, hey, we can save our residents maybe $70 a year on their electrical bill, but that's just with the first projection. And now when these Edison contracts start to change, I mean, whether it's with the JPA or like when Edison goes, I'm going out to buy power, that how comfortable are you with that cost right now? This is just a projection on I'm thinking you take a lot of your information off of what Edison's paying today. Does that kind of make sense what I'm trying to get at?
Yeah.
I mean, how are you getting there?
So one of our team members, the Energy Authority (TEA), would be our energy marketing portfolio manager, and they are. They're a not-for-profit energy provider. They're actually owned by 8 municipal utilities across on the West Coast. So they would be kind of entering that market alongside Edison, purchasing the same power, whatever our board decides is the appropriate energy mix, develop the rates that our board sets. We'll kind of be in that same market that Edison will be when those contracts do begin to expire.
So on that note, like today, when Edison purchases they go to the source, they purchase power, it's a pass-through cost. If whatever they're paying for a megawatt, there's no markup. It goes to the delivery system. Okay, and what you're telling me is the JPA you'll be able to buy electricity at a lower cost with all your additional overhead, okay, and create this layer of government and give us a savings. And I just can't see how you can. So it's almost like a 3-card monte in a way, that Edison isn't marking it up, but you can go out on the market and save us money. I'm just having a hard time grasping that.
No, and that's a great question, and thank you very much for that. So there are kind of three parts to that. So that is correct. Edison can make no profit on its energy procurement. What it buys it for, and whatever overhead is included in that, they can't make a profit on that. Yes, Edison has been required by the CPUC to go into a number of long-term contracts. That's been a requirement of the CPUC, so that kind of drives prices a little bit as well. And the CPUC doesn't have that level of authority over CCA, so we can set our rates and we can find the energy mix that is right for our subregion. But going down to that level of overhead that you mentioned, if we're able to provide that electricity with just 4 staff, that level of overhead is much lower than perhaps what an alternative would be. We would be minimizing that level of overhead even more by partnering with WRCOG or utilizing WRCOG staff, facilities, et cetera, to reduce that overhead cost even more.
Just a couple more quick questions. The exit fees concern me, that for the residents, that if a resident decides, wants to opt into this program and then decides to opt out, they're going to be charged an exit fee. And I think you have that projected at, is that the 2.2 cents? Or is that on the PCIA? I'm sorry.
That's the proposed. That's one of the CPUC's proposed decisions was that 2.2 cent cap.
Okay. As an exit fee.
The exit fee would be for the resident if they join the CCA. That's right. Included in that rate. If that resident, like you had mentioned, they can decide to go back to Edison at any time.
But, okay, so that cap right now on the PCIA at 2.2, that's only today, right? That's this year. It could be a higher number next year?
That's the proposed decision as it currently stands. It is a 2.2 cent cap with I believe it's an escalator of 0.5 cents every year, which is well in the range of what we were assuming. We're still assuming 30% higher than even that.
Okay. Thank you.
Kevin?
So it's very, very confusing, and I'm really familiar with it, but it's confusing when you first hear it a couple of times. One of the things, as I understand it, is that Edison changing their rates as contracts move to new contracts. Either way, you would still get the same percentage of increase. In other words, if you're part of what you're proposing, or if you're with Edison, you're still going to get the same percentage of rising. In terms of the WRCOG, my understanding is that because this would be run through WRCOG, the unfunded liabilities would be going through WRCOG. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And WRCOG is now on the verge of paying off all of their unfunded liabilities, is my understanding.
They're working towards that, yes.
Right. And then I guess at this point, all we're agreeing to is sort of seeing where this will go and if it is actually feasible. One of the things, we did have some people that came in from San Bernardino, and they were concerned about the new level of government. But truthfully, and no offense to anybody sitting in the room, Edison is not the easiest company to deal with. And so one of the things that we're trying to do is this may give us a bigger level of control. And if it works out the way they want it to, it should give us a larger level of control, because we'll have representatives from every person, every city, every entity that'll be sitting on that particular board, correct? And so you'll have much more say. And again, no offense to Edison, we love Edison, they keep my lights on, but they did burn down my house, and so I'm just, I'm teasing you. So I think there's a lot of questions, but I think most importantly is at this point we're simply saying we will give it a try. I do know that some of the cities that chose not to get into this, it was all about the level of control, and it became political. And I don't think that the people that were commenting on that actually understood that this is just the first step to go into it. It's an election year, so people are afraid to say yes to some things, and I think that's kind of the impression I got when we've discussed it at the WRCOG level. That's all I have to say, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. And to reiterate what Councilman Bass said, we met with Director Bishop and Ms. Spoonhour about the JPA earlier. And my question to them, and I want you to bear me out on this, what cost is it to this city, the city of Norco, to take this first step to join the JPA? None. Okay. What does it cost the city and the residents of this town if we decide not to continue with the JPA? I mean, after we started, before it goes into the contracts.
Before it goes into the contracts?
Before it goes into contracts. None. So right now, it's just all about being part of something to see if it's feasible, correct?
Correct.
At no cost to the residents and no cost to the city.
Correct.
Okay, I want to make sure everybody understands that. We talked about a percentage of savings to the residents, and that's what really I'm looking for. And you anticipate, you said 4% or 2% is what you're basing this on?
4.4 is our feasibility study, but for purposes of this, we went a little bit more conservative. It just did 2%.
2%, okay. So at least a 2% savings per resident. So what we're trying to look at. And before I go any further, do you want to hear Aline or?
She wants to speak.
Before does anybody else? Okay, go ahead, Robin.
I apologize. Thank you. So, in light of recent activities in our area, fires and potential earthquakes and all that kind of stuff, when we look at the WCE, who is Edison in charge of coming and helping us with cleanup and repair and getting power back on, or is that your board?
Edison would still be providing all of the for the assets on the ground, the transmission distribution lines. They would still be supporting with all of that. WCE is just purchasing the energy, still partnering with Edison just to get it to you. So Edison would still be supporting with that.
Okay. And then when you guys did your feasibility study, and I don't think I was clear, or the question's a little different, How many cities did you plan on joining WCE for the first feasibility study?
We ran numbers for all of our cities, just giving this opportunity to all of those jurisdictions.
Has there been a feasibility study done of how many you actually need to join?
To achieve economies of scale? Is that kind of what? We identified that the economies of scale wasn't on the energy procurement piece, not there so much as the operational side. For staff being able to, for 2 cities versus 5, 6, 7, however many, it just increases the operational economies of scale from that standpoint.
All right, thank you.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Robin, what was your first question?
About
one of the things my understanding is that this added bureaucracy, which absolutely is the case, you will have more of a local voice, isn't that correct? In other words, you will actually have a local commission you can go to and say, hey, we're really having a problem here. And that could actually then extend to more control over what Edison does and does not do, correct?
Of course, yeah, we have great partnerships with Edison already, and yeah, we would definitely utilize this as another avenue, another opportunity to get services reinstated, provided to our customers, both of our customers.
Yeah.
Edison's and WCE's.
And what perked my ears up is it also means that you will have a local level, if this works. And again, if this works, nobody knows yet. Undergrounding, on top of grounds, there's different things. You will now have an added layer to provide pressure. But again, the truth is nobody really knows. And my other understanding is that per Rick is that didn't you guys run numbers if you had 5 cities, if you had 10 cities? I mean, you guys played with a lot of the different numbers. I think Barbara mentioned that. So if 4 joined, if 5 joined, if 10 joined, and I'll put this out there because I know he's afraid to, they actually had higher numbers in savings, but you guys really wanted to pull stuff back 4.5. Did you have one study where you had almost 5.5?
Well, we identified that 4.5 was still already conservative, but we want to just keep layering on more conservative and just say 2%.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, the 4.4.
Anyway, I just thought I'd clarify that. And
very conservative.
I have you're at a disadvantage because this is really complicated, and I'll be the first to admit, I think the key is what the mayor said, is that we have nothing to lose at this point, so.
Thank you, Tyler. Anybody else in question? Oh, Berwin, go ahead.
How many cities did you say is already joined?
5.
5, and you're expecting 4 more this week, or you're hoping 4 more this week?
3 more? Yeah.
3 more? Yeah. And so if we did this tonight, and then later on, before it goes into effect, it don't cost us anything if we pull out of it. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions
Yeah,
for
I have another
Tyler?
question. I don't want to. I understand feasibility studies, so don't take me wrong on this. But your last comments, I'm just not buying it. That Edison's responsibility in this is they deliver. Okay, they have the transmission lines, they do the delivery, they do the billings. The JPA, you are just going to go out and purchase electricity. You're going to purchase the power, and then you're just going to turn it over to Edison so they can distribute it. I don't see where you have skin in the game to say that, well, we'll be able to tell Edison that they're going to have to underground lines, or we really want to see things this way. I think your position in this is only that you're going to go to try to make a better deal, because you can come in with new contracts today. Edison's still hung on these old, longer-term contracts that are more costly, but I just don't see how you're going to have influence to tell Edison that, we want you to underground these lines, or, have any input into transmission and delivery of electricity.
Well, the influence that our board would have, our elected officials would have on that board is to set the rates and develop that choice for its residents and businesses. And we would continue to partner with Edison on their assets, their undergrounding, whatever their piece of that puzzle is. Ours would be just providing that local control and those options to the residents and to the customers, and developing those rates.
I don't see that as your position at all. You're going out to the market to try to get a better price, and then you're selling the electricity to Edison to distribute. You have nothing to do with distribution.
We're not selling the electricity to them, but we're utilizing them to transmit the electricity that we purchase for our residents, yes.
Not trying to be difficult. Thanks.
Tyler, one question. You're going to do this feasibility study, and it has to be done from 2019 to you can start it by 2020, right?
Correct.
On your feasibility study, and let's be truthful, if the numbers come back negative, you guys still going to go forward? Okay, I just want to be sure. Okay, I want to be an honest answer. Okay, because if it doesn't work, then we shouldn't be talking about it, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I just want you to take that back to WRCOG too. I'd appreciate it. Before I go back to the cards, thank you. I appreciate that. Before I go to the cards, Eileen, I know you're sitting back there from Edison. I hate to put you on the spot, but is there anything as a Southern California Edison representative you want to add to this?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Eileen Flores with Southern California Edison. As Councilmember Bash said, this is a very complicated and confusing topic. We do have a subject matter expert that we can have come and present to Council to talk about SCE's perspective on CCAs. One of the things that Tyler talked about is the PCIA, or the power charge indifference adjustment. That is something, as you said, there was a proposed decision at the beginning of the month. Then there was an alternative decision that was yesterday, and the commission is supposed to bring it to their full commission sometime in September for a final decision. We're still analyzing that, so that's additional information that we could provide during that presentation if the council wishes to have one of our subject matter experts come and speak to you about CCAs and how the PCIA could have a potential impact to our bundled customers, which are the customers that stay with Edison and who receive power from us and have the distribution and transmission, and also how it could potentially affect those that have the departing load. So if that is something you would like, please, I can arrange for someone to come at a future council meeting.
Okay, Mandy, we might think about that. Brewer, do you have any questions of Eileen? No. Robin? Kevin? Craig? Thank you, appreciate that. And I know we have cards.
Mike Thompson.
Good evening, Mike.
Good evening, Council. Sometimes when something sounds too good to be true, the old saying. I'd sure like to hear what California Edison has to say about some outsiders trying to shoehorn their hand into the wallet. And I'm just complicated, I'm not sure I understand, but if the city of Norco decides to go with this deal, so everybody in town would be under this new deal, what about a lot of us customers in the city that have solar power? And we've got deal with Edison to where we're generating and our extra power is going back into the grid. And for myself, I don't pay anything for electricity anymore. I just pay taxes. So that's why I'd like to hear what Edison has to say about letting somebody new in the chicken coop. So thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Mayor, that's all the cards on this item.
Tyler, can you bring it back here to the dais? Could you address the solar power issue, please?
Sure. Thank you for that question, Mr. Thompson. Net energy metering customers, folks with solar, they would still be able to participate in community choice aggregation programs. What we see up north is that at the end of a year, if you produce more than you use, there's kind of a true up and you get a bill credit or you get a check back. What we see in CCAs is they actually pay out at the market rate, whereas utilities are paying out at the wholesale rate. So the cities actually, or the residents, I should say, actually get trued up at a greater profit. Maybe is the wrong word, but they get a larger amount at that true up.
Thank you.
Yes.
I hope that answered the question. Any further discussion, Berwin?
Well, I don't know. I've been reading, I don't know it's true, it's on social media, but for the last 10 days I've been seeing a lot of comments about people complaining about how high their electricity bills was. Of course, we had about a 20-day heat wave, and I'm sure a lot of people were like us, running their air conditioner a bunch, but I think it don't cost us anything here and it's up to the people. If we do this, the whole city's not automatically on it, is there? It's just
Yep.
Folks can opt out.
What's that?
Individuals can opt out.
Okay, they can choose, so that all 24,000 people don't automatically go on this if we decide to.
They do automatically go in unless they choose to opt out. Is that correct, Tyler?
That is correct. And in the enrollment process, there will be multiple times where we'll send out notifications to residents and business owners that they can opt out at any given time. They can always opt out, but before they're in, we'll let them know. We'll give them the proper notifications.
So if they can opt out, the whole city's not going to be in on it. Well, I think it's up to I think the citizens should have a right to make a choice. That's what I'm trying to say. That's all I got to say.
Thank you. Robin?
I would guess at this point, if there's zero commitment as far as dollars from us until the feasibility study is done, I'm okay with moving forward with that. But I would like to hear from Edison. I didn't know they could talk. I was under the understanding that they were not allowed to speak on this issue the last time. So if we can hear from them before that September date, I would appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. We plan on doing that. Edison is limited with respect to the information they can provide today. I think they are working on obtaining some exemptions that will allow them to provide as much information as they would like to do. And certainly before the city becomes a formal participant in this JPA, Edison will come back to the City Council and make formal presentation.
Okay, so that would be my preference at this time. It's, moving forward and seeing how the feasibility study goes, and obviously hearing from Edison as well.
Thank you. Kevin? Greg?
Just to clear the air, I'm not a big fan of Edison either, as all of you know. Andy, I want to be a little clearer on this, that if it was to move forward, all the residents would be opted in, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, as a whole. Then if I chose to opt out, I'm going to pay an exit fee. Is that correct?
That part, I don't think so.
If I'm in it for 6 months? Okay. So I can opt out at this point in time?
If you elect to go with the CCA,
right? You should buy. Yeah.
If you elect to go with the CCA, my understanding, as a customer, and you decide to opt out, there is a potential for a fee for when you go back to Edison, what they call a reinstatement fee. And this is the preliminary information I've been provided. Again, this information will be fully addressed before the city makes a determination to formally become a member of this JPA.
Okay. So, no fee from the JPA to opt out as a resident, but the potential exists because now Edison is buying less electricity. I could be charged a fee to reestablish myself with Edison. Okay. All right. I don't have a problem with moving forward with a feasibility study at this time, as long as it's not going to cost us anything, and we can jump out at any time with no penalty. And I think it's prudent to go one more step, get additional information.
Kevin, you need some more?
Unless you have a comment, I was going to make a motion to.
No, okay. I'm kind of concurring in looking at what's best for the residents. If we can get a reduction in our costs for our services, electrical services, I'm for it. But again, this is the first step to see if this thing is even feasible. And as long as it's not costing us anything at this point, yes, we should go that way, but definitely want to hear, like anything, and no disrespect to you, Tyler, is we need to hear the other side in a full setting so everyone here fully understands what's going on. So Andy, I'm sure you're going to make arrangements for Eileen and her crew to come back to do a full council presentation. With that, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to move forward at no cost with the proposal. Approve the resolution.
Have a first and a second.
Please vote on this item. Motion passes unanimously.
All right, go back. And by the way, that motion was actually 2018-53, correct? All right, just so you know, that was changed in our number. And without city council, city manager, staff communications, Andy, do you have anything? I'll start with you.
No, I don't have any.
John?
Nope.
An attorney with no words to say. No, don't even get started. Kevin? Greg? Robin?
I just wanted to give a shout out to all of our public safety folks the last couple of weeks with the fires going on, and then there's been a couple things in town. Some of you got nixle alerts and other things going on, and our public safety people are just doing an amazing job for our town right now, so I wanted to show a little appreciation.
Hoorah. Berwin?
I'll ditto what Robin said.
Okay.
One more incident though.
It's tough over there, isn't it, right now, huh? All right. Anything else, Eric?
No, sir. Thank you.
You guys are doing a good job. Thank you. I asked Scott or Brian, but they're not saying anything. You know what, Greg? Scott's been here before, but can you do a little explanation on the cutout there for Mr. Petrie?
Absolutely. First, let me comment on both cutouts. No public funds and no public time was used in the reproduction of these, okay? So I guess Brian's back in the Chicago area with his family, and so he took a tour of Wrigley Field and saw a Cubs game, and he sent me all these pictures of him in a Cubs uniform and him eating Chicago dogs and by statues and all of that. So I decided to embarrass him and take that picture of that Cubs fan, since our city attorney's a Yankees fan and they're not doing too well. But the one thing I enjoy about Brian, that he's just so down to earth, he took a tour of Lake Michigan, went out on the lake, and he goes, "Wow," he says, this is a big lake. And I write them back and I go, yeah, Brian, it's almost like it's a great lake. And it's just, he's fun to play with. So I'm sure he'll enjoy that. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, Steve, do you have anything? No. All right, Chad, good job, by the way, in getting all those flood things going. We're looking forward to that in the future, okay, making sure that those people up there are protected. Matt, anything? Good job, by the way. Thank you for recording the Navy band up there. Hope to see some bits and pieces of that. Cheryl? Could you, Cheryl, just for public, did you announce the names of those council candidates we have this year, since it's official on there?
Yes, Mayor. The nomination period closed last week on Thursday, August 9th, and the 5 city council candidates are Greg Newton, Kevin Bash, Rod Taylor, Travis Walsh, and Rob Cozell.
Thank you.
That information is on the city website if residents are interested in reading more information on them.
And there's the Measure R that's also on the city website. Correct. Okay, and that's our revenue measure. And just a reminder, like Bonnie and Harvey said, rodeos this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. If you want to come out, watch me with the Challenge Children's Rodeo, I will be there Sunday. I think it's at 3. Yell at me later. 3 or 4? 3:30. See, Bonnie knows. All I do is announce it. And then the fair following up over Labor Day weekend and the big parade on Labor Day Monday. So with that, we're adjourned.